And we're back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960. So very glad that you could join us on this Friday edition of the Mark Petroni Show, a day that we like to not only look at UFOs, but we also like to talk to Benjamin Dichter, who's our Bitcoin enthusiast. He's a Bitcoin trader. He's been involved in cryptocurrencies for how many years? I mean, this you've been at this for a while, haven't you, Benjamin?
Yeah, since 2016.
2016, when
Yeah.
Bitcoin was, I want to guess, 4,000, just off the
No,
top of my, more than
no,
that,
it was less than that. It was less than $1,000.
less than $1,000. Well, we have some Bitcoin millionaires, probably even billionaires out there, people who got in early. And now, of course, we're looking at Bitcoin, even though it's extremely volatile, trading somewhere around $60,000. Last time I checked, where are we at right now, Benjamin? Not that you keep a minute by minute look at the price of Bitcoin, but where is it right now?
I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100 is my guess. Last I checked. Um,
I think we can do a little bit better than that.
yeah,
Let's.
something just to point out as well. When you mention the Bitcoin billionaires and whatnot, most people who got into Bitcoin early who made a lot of money, they've already sold it. So there's really only a handful of people that held Bitcoin this long since 2012, 2013. So everybody feels bad. Oh, if I just got in, back then I would have been, a millionaire by now. But they don't realize most people have sold it and then they rebought. Raoul Paul famously talked about that he bought it at $200 and sold it at $2,000 and thought he was a genius. Well, here we are several years later, and if he had held it, but most people didn't. Most people took, they took profits, and you can't blame people for taking profits. And it's the small handful of people that just bought Bitcoin and let it sit there, usually just because they forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, when it boomed, it's, oh, I need to find my password. And there's that very famous case of the guy in England who was one of those cases. He forgot about it, and then he saw Bitcoin accelerated in price, and he's been looking for his password for years. So much so that he wants authorization from the local council to dig through the local garbage dump to try to find his old hard drive.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about a few $1,000,000 here. This guy, I think we're talking about over $200 million worth of Bitcoin, right, for
Yeah,
this
something like
individual.
that.
And
Yeah.
he lost his 12 words. Is that the code that he
Yeah,
lost?
his seed phrase. He doesn't have a
Seed
seed.
phrase, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's 12 words.
It
Yeah.
depends on which platform you're using. It's
Okay.
either 12 words or 24 words, but it's a seed phrase regardless.
All right. So Bitcoin is actually up almost 3%. So as I said, it's extremely volatile at the moment. It's about $58,800. It
You gonna
had
call it a spike?
it. This is the other joke. Well, when you're talking to a guy who's owned gold for a while, then yeah, 2.9% is a spike. I mean, today gold is up, $4. That's point. It's like 1/5 of 1%. So
Well, like I'll give you an example from the altcoins from today's gainers. And we'll get into altcoins one day, but basic attention token today is up 29%. And BAT is a token that's been around for quite a while. It's the Brave browser. They have their own token. It's their token. It's been around for quite a while. It's up almost 30%, right? OKB is up 17%. Gala is up 40.8%. It's a quiet day. It's not like anything is up 150 and 300% right now. But
yeah, which has been known to happen, right?
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk Morgan Stanley, which has increased its exposure to Bitcoin, holding $300 million in grayscale stocks. I don't even know what that means. Grayscale stocks. I mean, most people have heard of Morgan Stanley. It's a major investment house in the United States. And now it's gone into Bitcoin in a big way. So presumably this lends legitimacy to cryptos.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the argument of people, oh, they're going to ban it, or the market's going to collapse, or Peter Schiff, it's going to go to zero. Well, I don't know if Peter
You
has
guys constantly make, and a lot of our listeners don't know Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff is a guy. Okay, look, I've read one of his books, The Big Crash. He's the guy who was known as having predicted the crash in 2007. Then he came out and said, well, that's not the crash I was talking about. Yeah, it was a crash, but still people credited him as the one who predicted it. And so he kind of took the credit and he's been dining out on it ever since. But problematically, he's also been a famous gold bug. He owns Pacific, is it Pacific Strategies or something like that? I can't remember.
Euro Pacific Capital.
Euro Pacific
Puerto
Capital.
Rico, go figure.
And so, okay, so he's done extremely well, and in gold, because he's held it for decades. But he's also been the most famous disparager of Bitcoin and crypto, and he keeps saying it's going to go down to zero. And so he's become kind of a walking meme from crypto enthusiasts who keep saying, this guy predicted it was a bubble at $10, a bubble at $1,000, a bubble at $5,000, a bubble at 10, so on and on and on. So here we are at $58,000. And people like Peter Schiff are still saying it's a bubble and it's going to go down to zero. And you're still hearing that from a lot of people. It's going to go down to zero. At some point, people are going to wake up and go, this is a scarcity of nothing, which I keep hearing from crypto skeptics, and it will go down to zero. Well, here it is. That's why it's important when we see huge companies like Morgan Stanley go all in, or at least partially in. I mean, $300 million is not massive for a company like Morgan Stanley, Benjamin, but it is significant.
Yeah, I mean, Peter's prediction of the stock market, the market crash 14 years ago, great, but every single prediction he's made ever since has been completely wrong. Everything about, he's not made one correct prediction about Bitcoin, and I'm torn. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people who say what Peter says, but they don't understand what Bitcoin is. They just don't know that it's a protocol and how this protocol works. Listen, it took me 18 months to really wrap my head around it and to understand what it is. It is so significant. It is civilization changing. People don't understand what this technology is. It's as though it makes the printing press look like a small achievement. It's like the Sumerians inventing writing.
Look, Benjamin, people are going to be hearing you say this, and they're going to think this is crazy. How can this be bigger than the printing press, for crying out loud? I mean, it's just, they're just going to scratch their heads and wonder, that's got to be hyperbole.
No, it is I'm trying to think of the simple way to get people who are non-techies to understand the significance of it. It is the digitization of our monetary system in a way that it's self-governing. No one can touch it but you without your permission. It solves a lot of technical problems that had been in the tech sector since computers were invented. It solved the Byzantine emperor's problem. Sorry, the Byzantine general's problem, which is a couple of thousand years back. So it's so significant from a technical achievement standpoint. It's absolutely brilliant. But how to communicate that to the average
like me.
Peter Schiff? Peter doesn't get it. Like, I doubt Peter is very comfortable with a computer, right? He maybe is, but to understand
that might be going a little too far. I mean,
I know.
I mean, if you believe that gold is a barbaric relic, then yeah, you might say that a guy like Schiff, who owns physical gold and a lot of it, and invests and buys gold on behalf of his clients, then he might be seemed like a guy who's out of step with the movement of digital money and the rest of it. It is interesting, however, that his own son is a crypto guy, I believe, and so members of his family have gravitated towards crypto. I don't know if Peter Schiff is ever going to do that, but I do know that people tend to make fun of him with by posting fake memes of him saying, "Yeah, buy Bitcoin." But I do want to run this story past you. Bitcoin is the single best shot at achieving liberty in our lifetime. So again, you're reading stuff like this. How do Bitcoin's properties present the best opportunity to seize liberty humanity has ever had? Okay, so the best opportunity to seize liberty that humanity has ever had. So this is what you were talking about. It's a way for people to be self-reliant. And so if you look at, for instance, some people feel that we're under assault by globalist elites like the Davos crowd, like people associated with the UN, these types of people, the Klaus Schwabs of the world. They see a huge conspiracy at play here, in which more and more of our personal business is going to come under the umbrella of these global elites, and they're going to be controlling things and the rest of it. I mean, these people, Benjamin, they don't want us to be able to run to anything, whether it's physical gold or whether it's crypto. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where this story is going, and that's what you were talking about earlier. It's a way to take control of your monetary existence and separate it from people who want to control it, because they want to digitize things too. Like if you go to China, for instance, I keep hearing of people having a black card and you don't need any money anymore. You can go into a store and you can use the card and boom, you can walk out with whatever you want to buy. But that information obviously becomes part of the state infrastructure. And if you fall out of favor with the state, either by criticizing Xi Jinping or doing something else on social media or publicly, and people find out about it, well, that black card no longer works. Or maybe it'll restrict you to buying food, and that's it. And so Bitcoin is essentially a way of extracting control of our money away from people who want to centralize it and control currency as a way of controlling you. Am I right? Am I wrong?
You
Where do you
are, and that's why you hear the term all the time, decentralized. So the CBDCs that's being used in China and a few other jurisdictions, those are the opposite of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is decentralized. What China has is centralized, meaning the government has full control, can see all the transactions, understands who everybody is, and can follow all transactions across the country. And the Davos crowd wants it for price signals for their crazy AI communist bot lunacy, but that's another story. Bitcoin does not have that same issue because it's decentralized. It's not on one central server. I don't know if you remember years ago, the app called Napster, when the guy
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so Napster is one of the first decentralized networks. That's what Bitcoin copied. It looked at Napster saying, all right, they've taken, fragments of data and they've distributed it across tens or hundreds of thousands of computers around the world, and that becomes the computer. There's not one central point of failure because there's so many copies and little fragments that are spread all over the world. Well, that's
peer to peer. It was peer to peer file sharing.
That's right. But that's
and it ultimately failed, though. It was regulated into oblivion, was it not? Or it was legal. It was subject to legal challenges by copyright on copyright issues and trademark issues, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we're going back quite a few years here, like
yes,
near the beginning of the internet. So ultimately, Napster was punished and almost destroyed. I think it still kind of exists in one form or another.
And the reason is because Napster was the centralized company. Like, this is the argument people have, Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Ethereum is operating similarly to how Napster operated. There's a central governance company, the Ethereum Foundation, that oversees it. And the argument is, well, that's the weak point. That's where governments can go after. But Bitcoin doesn't have that. It doesn't have a central company that controls it. So if Napster were like Bitcoin and it was just operating on its own and nobody was controlling it and governing it directly, then it wouldn't have been able to been stopped. And that's what Bitcoin is. That's why it's different.
All right, we got to take a quick timeout. Can you stick around for one more segment?
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960, the Mark Petroni Show, and Benjamin Dichter after this brief commercial break. And we're back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960. So very glad you could join us on this Friday edition of the Mark Petroni Show. I'm joined by Benjamin Dichter. He is our Bitcoin enthusiast, a trader, a guy who owns cryptocurrencies. I believe Bitcoin exclusively, or do you own other ones, Benjamin?
It's the theory is are you a Bitcoin maxi, or do you have all things as well?
I don't know what a maxi.
Judging
That's
by
like a feminine hygiene product. I mean, I don't understand.
Judging by my apartment here in Vegas, one might, and you look fabulous on what is that Bitcoin aisle of the New York Stock Exchange?
Yeah, and it's really noisy here, guys. Can you keep it down? I mean, it's so loud here on the floor with people training and stuff.
I envy the amount of access. I really do.
Oh boy! Well, like I said, you look like if Tony Montana became a Bitcoin billionaire, that's the kind of pad he would have right there behind you.
But Tony Montana would never use Bitcoin because he would be afraid of the public ledger.
That was, by the way, that was Al Pacino and Scarface, if you're interested in that cultural reference. We're going back a few years, but you've given me a great idea. Why not update Tony Montana in the cryptocurrency world? And he has, he's still snorting coke off the butt of naked women and doing all that kind of stuff.
No. Well, Tony Montana did, but the real life version, Pablo Escobar, he never did coke. He never did any hard drugs.
Okay, and he wasn't into his own product. And you went to Medellin, Colombia, right? So you got to know the environment. So maybe are you able to say anything about your dealings with anybody out there? And I use the term dealings guardedly.
No, I'll tell you one thing. People they get very, very upset when gringos, because they say all gringos here, when they hear Colombia, is drugs, drugs, drugs. And they get so offended by it. They don't
really. Okay.
Oh yeah, they were really angry. I never saw any of that when I was down there.
Well, good for you. I'm sure it's a great place, Colombia. Yeah. Gorgeous country, I'm sure. Very mountainous, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I've got to ask you, speaking of, south of Canada, south of the United States, El Salvador. Okay, so, and can I pat myself on the back here, because last time we spoke, I asked you if, in fact, El Salvador was going to come under pressure because it has gone into Bitcoin. It has adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. And sure enough, I did ask you at the time, last time, will El Salvador come under assault by the authorities over its decision to do that? People who want to obviously protect fiat currencies so they can print as much of that stuff for their own benefit as they want. And sure enough, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has warned El Salvador against using Bitcoin as legal tender, stating that the move carries risks to the financial system. But really, they're talking about other countries' financial system. I mean, if this works in El Salvador, the IMF is probably just worried that other countries are going to say, you know what, maybe we're going to try it as well. They're just worried that this thing will pick up steam. Isn't that the case, Benjamin?
Well, yeah, the irony is that the IMF is behaving more like Tony Montana than anybody else. And they're running this protection racket against El Salvador. I'm waiting for that email. You guys need protection from the Bitcoin monetary system. Once the announcement was made that they were going to move to a Bitcoin, Bitcoin standard, but making it legal tender, shortly after, within a few days, the communist babushka who runs the IMF had come out with a statement, oh, that's very dangerous. Oh, it's very dangerous. Whatever. Okay, fine. I mean, we know, for those of us who are aware of what's going on with the IMF and the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, I think it was Lukashenko came out about 6 months ago And after the coronavirus started, and he made an announcement in a press conference, and he explained that he essentially got a bribe from the IMF of, I think it was $940 million. You look it up, you'll find it all over the internet. And the $940 million was for him to institute hard restrictions, mask mandates, passports, all the stuff we're seeing. And the IMF's argument was, don't worry about the economy, because what we'll do is we'll supplement that by issuing you SDRs. SDRs are funny money that the IMF issues. Why? Because that's a competitor to U.S. Treasury bills. So they're trying to undermine the U.S. with all of that. That's the big opportunity that Klaus Schwab, another left-wing German who's trying to save the world, what could go wrong with
Well,
that?
he's trying to run the world. I think that's more, what I
Yeah.
think is going on. This guy is scary indeed. But here he is. He's the leader of the World Economic Council, right? Isn't that the organization that he helms? I don't know. I think that
Yeah,
is.
did you ever see his Dr. Evil video where he's up there and goes, "We need a great reset"? Like it was crazy. The guy is nuts.
Yeah,
It's
and people, well, he's got countries around the world, Western countries particularly, I think, who've completely fallen under his spell and just bought into this. And it's liberty destroying stuff. And really, it's Bitcoin that's one of those things, at least it's starting to appear to me, as one of those things that could be a way of avoiding having this group, having this centralized state control over our currency, because they want to get rid of cash, do they not? I mean, that's one of the things that they've got on their list of to-dos is to get rid of cash, because of course you walk in and buy something with cash, the state doesn't really know anything about it.
That's right. That's right.
Let's talk. Okay, can I move ahead with this IMF story in El Salvador a little bit more? Furthermore, the agency, the IMF, called on El Salvador to narrow the scope of the Bitcoin law and strengthen the regulation and supervision of the new payment ecosystem. What does that mean?
You need some protection. That's what that means.
Ah, okay.
Um,
So it's not. What I read into this is that they're worried. I
yeah.
see this as a concern. And the other thing I'm going to think that is not first they're going to try to buy these guys off, and then if that doesn't work, the stick, right? They're gonna go after El Salvador. Here's this tiny little Latin American country that's been poor for as long as I can remember, trying to crawl out of its poverty and give its empower its citizens. And the IMF is saying, "Oh no, you don't. And by the way, you probably owe, you owe us hundreds of millions of dollars, and we could put the squeeze on you, and we can make life miserable for you if you go down the road of adopting Bitcoin more than you already have." Is this a subtle form of blackmail here, or maybe even not that subtle?
I think that's pretty obvious. And I think the other issue that the IMF and World Economic Communist, Forum are facing is that there's many other countries that are looking at El Salvador's announcement and they're exploring it as well, whether it's Panama, Paraguay, a number of other jurisdictions. Even the United States, you hear senators and congressmen in the United States that are starting to bring up Bitcoin as an alternative asset and as something for the poorer class, but also for a way to hedge against inflation. That's how Cynthia Lummis, the senator from Wyoming, got into Bitcoin, because she was the treasurer for the state of Wyoming, and when she was looking for some sort of asset that she could put state treasury into, because she knew she was losing 2 to 3% at least in terms of inflation, and she just stumbled across Bitcoin, and that's when she got involved, and that's now a sitting senator. Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, a number of people, and it's across political spectrum where you see people that are starting to say, well, maybe it's an alternative, because I think they realize, and there was a Senate hearing about a year ago. There was a report on Bitcoin. I've looked for it online, haven't been able to find it again. But essentially, what was highlighted in that meeting is they can't ban it. You can regulate it, which I think is the direction they're going to go. But because there's no central point of failure, there's no foundation, there's no company, there's no Napster that's running it, unfortunately, it's just going to be there like oxygen and water. So either they work within a framework that allows it to operate, or they're going to be, constantly up against the wall. They'll never be able to get control. And, the more government insists and tells people you can't do A, B, or C, yeah, for a little while, they'll go along with it. But then eventually people start to say, no, 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 no. We're the ones in power, not the government. And if all of us agree you're all full of you-know-what, then your authority is lost. So they can only push so far.
Can we talk about BlockFi?
Yes.
Okay, BlockFi. Okay, here's their website. Don't just buy Bitcoin, earn it. BlockFi is the easiest way to buy, sell, and earn cryptocurrency. Okay, fine. But apparently the deal is here, you can earn interest, earn up to 3.5% back in Bitcoin on every purchase. But in fact, you can earn a lot more than that in interest in Bitcoin. And so this is one of those things that's kind of interesting, because a lot of people see it as kind of a dead asset in terms of dividends. And I know you're going to think it's not a stock, and I get it. It's not a stock. But here it is. It's kind of behaving like a stock. I mean, if it's generating interest, Benjamin, then isn't it acting at least like a dividend paying stock?
Well, it's acting like bank accounts used to act 20, 30 years ago, or maybe 30, 40 years ago, when you would have a savings account and you'd earn 6, 7% interest on your account. That's the way things used to be, right? People's recency bias has allowed them to forget how our banking system used to operate. I think the best thing is to tell people they're going to get, if they go to newstalkcrypto.com, they're going to get two great benefits. One is they'll get to see this amazing location where you are at right now on Bitcoin Isle in the New York Stock Exchange. But the second thing is, in the description, I'll put a link to BlockFi. What they can do is go set up a BlockFi account.
Okay.
And they can earn up to 9.5% interest on stable coins. That might be a little bit too advanced for some people right now, even though it's quite simple. But people are new to the market. I get it. But if you buy Bitcoin, throw it in there, you put it in your BlockFi account, you're going to earn 3.5% in Bitcoin. So that, in addition to whatever value Bitcoin goes up to over the next, let's say, between now and the next halving cycle.
Okay, so they're going to go to newstalkcrypto.com, right? That's the name of the site that you manage.
Yeah, and that will be that will be this video on YouTube. There's a News Talk Crypto YouTube channel, and in the description of the videos, there will be a link for people to click on to open and start with BlockFi and set up their account.
Okay, is it just NewsTalk, all one word, newstalkcrypto.com?
Yeah, or alternatively, they can just open up YouTube and type in News Talk Crypto. And while they're there, like, share, subscribe, and click the little bell.
newstalkcrypto.com. There you go. For those who can watch this, you can see it. All right, my friend. Well, listen, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
That is Benjamin Dichter. Check out his website, newstalkcrypto.com. And we're going to take a brief timeout commercial break. And we've got UFO Friday coming up today. Yes, indeed, with our friend Dave Scott. It's all coming your way after this brief commercial break. Back with more on the Mark Petroni Show right here on Saga 960.